Tonight, Star Wars returns to the big screen. But is the movie big enough? Well, I'll tell you if you let me! Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Macclevoid. It's not my real name. Now, listen. Star Wars. Do you remember Star Wars? It used to be a thing. It was enormous back in the day. Huge. Bigger than me, I dare say. Yes, that big. But look, listen. Things have gone awry, haven't they? Because The Rise of Skywalker, that awful movie that we've tried to forget, flopped. It grossed only $1 billion worldwide. A paltry, miserly, measly, piddling $1 billion. Which sounds like a lot of money, and is, but it's quite a drop-off compared to the $2 billion The Force Awakens grossed. Well, it's 50% in it. In the wake of The Force Awakens' failure, Disney, the evil corporation that bought Star Wars lock, stock and barrel back in the day, panicked. What had gone wrong? Why didn't people like Star Wars anymore? What do we do? Well, they had no idea. So they used their streaming service, Disney Miners, to road test some ideas. They rejected mine, Dexter Jettler Investigates, but we won't get into that. And by the way, this review and any negative comments I make about Disney are in no way predicated on that rejection. I'm fine with it. It's okay. You don't want to make a story about Dexter solving crimes from his diner? It's no skin off my nose. It's your loss. But they made other things. They made, The Acolyte, and they made Obi-Wan, and they made all sorts of things. Things that might have been movies once upon a time. But they didn't quite have the confidence in them anymore to make them into movies. So they became TV shows, ludicrously expensive TV shows. And of all of those, the one bona fide hit, the one breakthrough that they made, featuring their own characters. That's right, characters that George Lucas didn't create, but they created. They did, in their lab, was The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian was a bit like Boba Fett, but he was someone else. And the idea was that he'd go across the Star Wars galaxy, post Return of the Jedi, and have adventures. A sort of an adventure of the week. A bit like, a one-man A-team. But here's the twist. He met somebody. He met a little character, a little green guy, a little baby Yoda, who we later learn was called Fuck You. Grogu. And Mando and Grogu went through lots of things. Shenanigans. I don't quite know how it ended, because even though it ran for 3 seasons, I haven't seen the 3rd season. I mean, nobody has. I don't care who you are, I don't care where in the world you live, you haven't seen it, have you? You have no idea what happened in the 3rd season. I don't know. And I can't find any evidence that the 3rd season really exists, except a press release from Disney saying that it does. So, no one saw the 3rd season, The Mandalorian. It tapered off. People didn't like it so much anymore. They thought, no, it's done with now. Once you introduce Luke Skywalker and take Grogu off for Jedi training, but Grogu, despite being a baby, decides he doesn't want it, and so you toss him back to Mando. There's really nowhere to go with the story, is there? So you start off with movie concepts that become TV shows, and eventually you end up with a TV show that you think could become a movie concept, because, well, it's the only thing you've done that anybody ever liked. But if you're Disney, and remember, nobody pulls failure from the jaws of victory like Disney. If you're Disney, you wait. You don't make a Mando movie while it's smoking hot, while everybody loves Baby Yoda, while the Baby Yoda toys are flying off the shelves. You wait. You wait 2-3 years. to the point where there's absolute indifference. Nobody cares, and no one can remember watching The Mandalorian even. I mean, they saw it, but they couldn't tell you anything that happened. Gus Fring from Breaking Bad was in it, and there was a black lightsaber, and someone was in it, and then they weren't. And did Jack Black show up at one point? It's hard to remember, isn't it? You can't sort of, see the shape of any of the stories. So it's all passed out of our collective memory. It's gone to a place far, far away, and we can't remember anything about it. Yet now we're asked to go and see The Mandalorian and Grogu, the movie. And I'm sorry to report, it looks like it was slapped together over a weekend. I mean, you'll see online lots of people saying, "Oh, it's the abandoned fourth season truncated," and yes, it does have a very conspicuously episodic structure, but it's hard to believe that this was the fourth season of the show because, well, there are no stakes. It's utterly inconsequential. You find me of all people, extremely confused having watched it. I've thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. I thought about it all the way home, thought about it over dinner, and I don't really know what this movie is about, beyond the incidental, or why anyone was compelled to make it. I mean, other than perhaps a sort of desperate attempt to kind of cash in on something that was popular a long time ago. I asked everybody, the champ in the street, the butcher, the baker, the home and the family maker. I asked everybody, and nobody seemed to know. It's a mystery, a real mystery. I mean, this movie is to Star Wars what Star Trek Insurrection is to the motion picture.
Computer, access manual steering column.
And that's not a compliment, by the way. I mean, you might hate Star Trek the motion picture, but it's a movie, right? It's big and grandiose, with incredibly high stakes, nothing less than the future of planet Earth. What's Star Trek Insurrection about? I know, Picard feels compelled to help a bunch of throwbacks, a bunch of yokels on a boring planet. Great. And of course, the chief criticism of that movie was that it was very much like a television episode. Written and directed by the people who made the TV show. And it showed. And the same is true for The Mandalorian and Grogu, because you can throw a little bit more money at it, and you can bring back Mando's ship, and you can have a few action set pieces. But it's that episodic structure, it's the complete lack of stakes that marks this out as a sort of reheated bit of television. Because just as television episodes reset at the end of every episode, so the two heroes or whoever can go again next week, so it is in this movie, and that happens about 3 times. And at the end of the movie, these characters are no different. They haven't changed or grown in any way. They're the same people they were when the movie started, in the same situation they were in when the movie started. And that's not all. Nothing's changed in the Star Wars universe either. Nothing has advanced in any way. And when you think about why that might be, perhaps the most telling credit is at the end, where the filmmakers, for some inexplicable reason, thank J.J. Abrams. Well, what the hell are they thanking him for, exactly? Repudiating The Last Jedi, the movie that you all hated. Yes, you hated it, didn't you? A movie that tried to expand the Star Wars universe, change it, give it somewhere else to go, create the potential for new stories. But you didn't like that. You wanted everything to stay the same. You don't like growth. You don't like change. And so, The Rise of Skywalker walked it all back. And we've got these terrible sequels, haven't we? These unloved sequels that even the people who made them have disavowed them. And so, because they exist, and because they're set after the time of Mandalorian and Grogu, there's nowhere for the Mandoverse to go, is there? They can't make changes to the Star Wars universe of any consequence, because that might interfere with the preset story of the sequels. And that'd be a problem. Unless, of course, you're thinking about decanonising the sequels. Are you thinking about that, Lucasfilm? Maybe you should do that. But of course that doesn't happen here. Maybe if something like that had happened, if this was a grand story about, I don't know, the space between spaces, new universal variants, dimension play, that sort of thing, if there was a threat to the very fabric of the Star Wars universe that improbably only Mando and Grogu could fix, well, this would be a movie worthy of the name. It would be a cinematic spectacle, a must-see for Star Wars fans. You've got to go and see this, because this rewrites everything. This resets everything. This is a new chapter in the Star Wars universe. But no, not a bit of it. The Mandalorian and Grogu goes nowhere, changes nothing. So what's the point of seeing it? Well, perhaps because you like Mando. Maybe you like little Grogu. You'd like to hear him gurgle in his sweet little way and use the Force in an extremely limited and inconsequential fashion. Or maybe you've heard that the movie features Jabba the Hutt's son and his brother and sister, and you want to meet them. And then you do meet them, and they talk, like New York cab drivers. And that's wrong, because the Hutts should never speak like us, should they? I mean, on Star Trek that would be like a Klingon speaking like Kenneth Williams. There's an incongruity there, it just doesn't work. How are we to love a movie where the stakes are personal, limited, but ultimately easily resolved? Are we supposed to be on the edge of our seat? Where's the tension? Because as the movie progresses, it becomes apparent that nothing's going to happen to these two people. Grogu is not going to be tempted by the dark side, or Grogu's not going to be kidnapped. Grogu's not, in fact, going to do anything of interest at all, other than have a little sort of side quest with his diminutive little buddies. What about the Mandalorian? Is he going to change fundamentally? Are his values going to be tested? Is he going to be compromised morally in some way? Is he going to make a discovery that's going to change everything we thought we knew about the Star Wars universe? Nope. Nothing's going to happen, actually. They're just going to go and do things. And then once they've done them, the movie is over. That's right. Absolutely nothing of interest happens here. At least Solo, that other sort of quick one off the wrist, that other irrelevant Star Wars movie, at least that ended on a cliffhanger. And there, you can understand why Lucasfilm might think we were invested, because this was the pre-story of Han Solo, a character we know and love, and it ties to the original trilogy. This doesn't tie to anything, except a television series that half the audience won't have seen, and having seen the movie, won't want to see. I mean, they're going to wonder what the hell the fuss was all about. Why are these two characters so popular? On this evidence, even I don't know, and I enjoyed the show, to start with. You're left wondering, really, is this the best they could do? I mean, they've had 7 years. I'm old enough to remember when Star Wars was so popular and so rare and so anticipated that when The Phantom Menace came out in the United States, there were people in Britain who weren't due to get the movie for another 2 months, who were prepared to fly across the Atlantic to see it. To fly across the world to New York to watch it. We're which is where I saw it, weirdly enough. But I wasn't there to see The Phantom Menace. I just happened to be there at the right time to watch it. But some people bought a plane ticket and flew off. I mean, imagine that. Can you imagine anybody buying a ticket to see The Mandalorian and Grogu? I don't mean at the box office. I mean actually paying to travel to see it. On this evidence, I'm not sure they'd spend their bus fare. Something's gone horribly wrong with Star Wars. And you can say, well, maybe it's brand saturation. Maybe it's the fact that it's become a sort of TV franchise. And once people get used to seeing it on television, there's no earthly reason for them to get off their arse, go to the cinema and pay their hard-earned money to see it there. Why bother? You can wait, and whatever is on the big screen will be on the small screen. Toot sweet. One way of making people get up to go and see new Star Wars movies would be to give them something massive, something that deepened the lore, new characters to invest in, something they can't see on television. But Disney have neglected to make any of those things. They've announced about 29,000 Star Wars movies over the last 7 years, and this is the one they made! This one! This fluff, this nothing! It's baffling, isn't it? A wise man once said, Star Wars is creatively bankrupt. And on this evidence, one would be inclined to say that is true. Where does a franchise go when nobody's prepared to take any creative risks anymore? And when they're so frightened of audience reaction, because the one time they did take a creative risk, everybody hated it, that they're not prepared to go in any new direction. They're not prepared to take a chance on a new idea. And by the way, this won't be fixed by decanonising the sequel trilogy and making the Thrawn trilogy from Timothy Zahn's books. That won't work. You need something new. You need new characters, new stories. Perhaps a new time period in the Star Wars universe that we don't all know by heart. It gives you a sandbox in which you can actually plot and create new and exciting tales for us. Did Disney have the chutzpah, the moxie to do that? Based on this evidence, no. The brain trust that's responsible for Star Wars these days are a desperate lot that have no new ideas. Not a single original thought. They don't have a clue what to do. And just as they don't have a clue what to do, we don't have a clue what to do with the stuff that they make. It's just sort of the cinematic equivalent and TV equivalent of fast food. Star Wars has always borrowed from genre fare, and there's some evidence of that in The Mandalorian and Grogu. You can see elements of film noir, elements of spaghetti westerns and so on, smashed together. But what those movies had, which this movie conspicuously lacks, is conspicuous style, smart double-edged dialogue, characters with psychological depth reinforced by the visual storytelling. None of that is on display here. And actually, there are some really irritating and baffling decisions, like putting in opening credits, for example. You retain the style of the end credits, but weirdly, you front load the main credits at the start of the movie. Why would you do that? It's odd and distracting. It doesn't make it feel like Star Wars. Why would you humiliate Martin Scorsese by having him play a sort of four-armed monkey? I mean, that's a comment, perhaps, on what Disney have done to Hollywood, but why? And why did Martin Scorsese agree to it? I mean, George Lucas isn't involved anymore. Why would he do this? Why? Ultimately, folks, The Mandalorian and Grogu, Certificate 12A, and showing oddly in some UK cinemas with an Irish print and an Irish film certificate. Don't ask me, I don't know. Is a movie no one will remember. No one's going to recommend it, and consequently, I think box office wise, it's dead on arrival. That's my theory. Perhaps I'll be proven wrong, but I won't be. Ultimately, one is left asking the question, what is its cinematic value in the age of streaming? If you're going to transfer your product to TV, and Star Trek also made this mistake, you have to make the cinema outings distinct and big and worthy of the audience's attention. These have to be sort of special stories, the kind that the small screen just can't hold. And that, I'm afraid, is not the case here. Until next time, I'm Dr. Macclevoid, and I'm afraid the Force is no longer with you. Good night!